Welcome to Uncover the Human, where every conversation revolves around enhancing all the connections in our lives.
Whether that's with our families, co-workers, or even ourselves.
When we can be our authentic selves, magic happens. This is Alex Cullimore.
And this is Cristina Amigoni.
Let's dive in. Welcome back to this episode of Uncover the Human. Cristina and I are joined today with our guest, Matt Ley. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Welcome.
We're excited to have you. Yeah, we had a great conversation when we just started talking, and we're very excited to get to do this. But to give everybody a little background on who you are, what's your story and what brought you here?
Relationships, man, that's what I'm all about. So, kind of self-described lover of people and chaser of shiny things, and that's a pretty good summary of my life story. 22 addresses in 44 years. Worked in tech startup. Was a pastor for a while. Worked in national disaster response, social justice work, corporate America, and supply chain operations. Got an MBA. Love getting pieces of paper to put on the wall behind me just because I love to learn new things. I'm an assessment nerd, and I'm just looking for different ways to understand how people are wired so that I can have better conversations with them and support them in their journey.
Sounds pretty awesome. I like the chaser of shiny things.
Yeah, I love it too because that's what I do. Sometimes it's a little bit more hectic for the spouses and people who are related to me. They get a lot of grace.
What's the latest shiny thing you've chased?
The latest shiny thing I've been chasing is building a business with others and being really intentional about. I've tried this before, and it was building a business with friends, and didn't realize that was different than building a business with partners. And so the shiny thing I'm looking at is how do you navigate those waters when you care deeply about everything that's going on, but recognize delegating, letting go, and trusting in other people to own their pieces. It's fascinating because that's also a microcosm of what our clients are experiencing. So being able to walk through it ourselves, it's been a ton of fun. And I mean, it's some days I'm way more confused than I've ever been before, and other days like, oh my gosh, it's so much better than what I had. So on the whole, and I'm a big fan of looking at trending, of asking the question, is a bad day today better than a bad day 6 months ago? Because things are going to go up and down, good days, bad days, but are you trending in a direction? And yeah, we are. We still have bad days. We still have confusing situations, but from 6 months ago, it's a totally different game. It's a way more fun.
That's right. How long have you guys been around?
About 6 months. So
hey, there you
go. All right.
Partnership, bringing a ton of experience from different areas of supporting organizations, and we're figuring out how to make that all work together. So I think that's probably the most exciting shiny thing, is that there's all these concepts and things I get to play with now and sort of figure out how to put them together. I'm a creative dreamer by assessment style, so it's a great place to be to kind of do that work.
That's awesome. Yeah. The balance between the delegation, letting go, and trust, and all of those things are definitely not easy. I was just talking to one of our team members who's taking over some of our podcast operations, actually, among other things. And it was a good moment, and one of those kind of self-reflection moment when I was trying to do something with her that I had never done, because we had two other people take care of it. And it started with hey, we have this idea, go make it happen. And so when I had to explain to this new team member, this is what we do, and some of the instructions which were left for her were excellent, but some of them work with Cristina on this. And I'm like, okay, you can,
I didn't know it was part of the process.
I have no idea how this happened in the past. And so we were doing it together, and I had that sense of wow, that's actually a really nice feeling to know that there was something that worked out really well and was flawless for 2 years. And I have zero idea what was actually happening. It was just happening.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling, because it's totally new to me. It's just having things that, because I've been doing consulting since 2019. And so much of it I had to do by myself. And a lot of it wasn't a great energy exchange. I mean, that's one of the few things. If you're doing everything by yourself, it's guaranteed you're doing some things that aren't great energy exchanges for you.
Yeah.
To be able to let go of some of those and realize,
Yes.
like, not only is it getting done by someone else, but they like it. That's the craziest part. They love the stuff we do. And that's because we're good partners because we're wired.
Yes. Yeah. And they do it better.
Yeah. If I'm doing it, I'm looking for, like, what's the bare minimum of level of success I can do to check this off my list of things so I do stuff that's fun. For them, they're like, how can I dig deeper into this and make it the point of excellence that everyone looks at?
Yeah.
I noticed you mentioned yourself as the creative dreamer, which I believe is that working genius language? Is that
That is
what
what
you're
It sounds
thinking?
like working genius
Yeah.
language. Yeah.
I think when we talked about this, Matt, I think you and I are almost exactly the same on all of the working geniuses, all the way from genius to frustration.
I keep it in front of me at all times just to keep myself clear on where I'm at. But
I think that is exactly it, except maybe my I and W are backwards.
Yes.
well,
I agree on that because there's so much of that shiny object and getting that delegation. And I have multiple times just in the last few months alone, we've got a few more people on board and just had that experience of, oh, you like doing this? Oh, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I thought I was torturing both of us by asking you to do this.
it's in my book. I don't think I leverage it and call it the working genius concept, but I talk about like two different types of burnout. One of the types of burnout called golden rule burnout, which is the golden rule: treat other people the way you want to be treated. It's just like that with projects. Like, I'm a wonder inventive. I love doing creative design. I don't want to be in the detail, tasky, check the box. If I had two activities come to me, one's a lot of creative design, one of them's checking the box, and I have an employee, I'm like, you know what, they've been really rocking it. I'm going to give them the good project, and I give them the wonder inventive one because it's what I like. That's golden rule burnout, because now I've taken on the project I don't like. I didn't know it. I might be handing them a project that they're like, oh, this is terrible. But with assessments, practicing the platinum rule, which is treat other people the way they want to be treated, and all of a sudden it's like, I give you the project you love, which I would not be really great at. I get to keep the project I love, and all of a sudden I multiply the amount of joy that we're getting. It's way better. It's just way better.
Now you've got two projects done way better
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Yes.
Nobody's tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, golden rule burnout. I like that idea.
That is a good idea.
To remind myself that. It's the idea of projection that we constantly do. We're constantly like, hey, this is how I feel about this. This must be how everybody feels about this. And no.
Well, especially because like a lot of my space is for like new leaders, particularly like as they step into management. And I love to help them separate what is management from leadership, because those are different concepts.
Very different things.
But when you're still dealing with all the emotional stuff, like, and you haven't calmed yourself down because you haven't been trained or given the space, because I equate the first time you step into management or leadership, kind of the first time you become a parent. You can have a PhD in child psychology, but the first time that child is screaming at 2 a.m. and you can't figure out how to get them to go back to sleep, that's a totally different game. So theory and practice play out very differently. In management, the same. And so we think we put people through management training and say, okay, here are all the concepts of the things that you're going to do. Great, you got the roadmap. Boom, go be awesome. And that's not it. We have to give them the space to do the growth, to process the emotions. And when we don't do that, that's when they show up and start delegating out. Like, I don't want anyone to hate me, so I'm going to give them all the stuff that I would love to do. And you get caught up in those pieces because you're not being responsive, which is consciously reflecting, you're being reactive. And that's what's causing the issues, is you're just not adding the consciousness into the process.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction. And all the parenting books and all the parenting advice go out the window when it's 3 a.m. and you've been trying to get the baby to sleep for 2 hours and you want to just toss him out the window. Or drop him off at the nearest fire station.
Around for an hour and a half at the car and not getting sleep is a logical choice right now, because I know they're going to sleep there.
Yes.
Good times.
Yeah, and managing people sometimes feels like you want to toss them out the window.
Yeah. First iteration of my coach training program, I actually had two things. It's like how managing is like parenting and how managing is not like parenting. And the like parenting was the theory and practice, and the not like parenting is paternalism. Like our job as parents is first and foremost to keep our kids safe.
Yes.
It's not to solve their problems. It's to keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we step into management, we try and do the same thing, and what we're actually doing is we're reducing the psychological safety because we don't have enough respect for the individuals to be adult in the process.
Yes.
And that's where micromanagement becomes kind of the rule.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Or you let go completely and you're not keeping them safe or supporting them.
Well,
you're an adult, figure it out.
Yeah. That's the other thing you can fall into where you have, you give them all of the authority, but you don't have any of the respect, and that's just exploitation.
Yeah.
Then you just...
Yes.
So how do you help people make that transition and get into that mindset of like, hey, I don't have to be paternalistic, but I do have to be, supportive. I am here to solve some problems, but not take away their autonomy. Yeah,
I mean, I think first and foremost is getting clear on like, why do we even have managers? Like, what's the point of this role? Like, what are we doing? Why do we keep having it? We don't have like LinkedIn posts going out there like everyone could be a manager. Come on, let's rally the managers. Come on, get your manager hat. It's like, no, everyone can be a leader. Okay, great. So we're putting people all the way up front, or we're the value creators of the contributors. Management hasn't been given its due. And that's like why I call the book, my subtitle is Reclaiming the Awesomeness of Management. And so it's first and foremost helping them understand and articulate that management actually brings immense value to your organization. And just because you have a manager title doesn't mean you stop doing contribution work or you can't engage in leadership, because leadership, I do believe, as an activity, can be at every level of the organization. It should be. There's be space for it. But what a manager does is that they help multiply the value of their people. And so when they start to see that that's why the position exists and that's what they get to help do, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is saying, kind of like an 80-20 rule, 80% of management is transferable skills. They'll work wherever you go. 20% of them are contextual, which is understanding what you're actually doing in this space in this time. Most managers got moved into management because they excelled at the 20%. And so what they start to do is double down on the 20%. And if you already got an A in the 20%, getting more extra credit in the 20% isn't going to get you a passing grade. You've really got to develop the 80%. And so that's what I help them do. I say, it's really the difference between, I used to call them hard skills and soft skills. I just call them contextual and transferable skills now. So your contextual skills are your hard skills. That's going to help you do the job here. Your soft skills, aka transferable skills, are the skills that are going to help you do the job anywhere. Yeah. So we help you develop those. So one, getting clear on articulating what management actually does and why managers do this, why they're awesome. And then two, getting good at the 80%, which are the transferable skills of management.
Yeah.
Before we dig into that too much, I just want you've hinted at the subtitle of the book. What's the title of the book?
Manager Gas. Reclaiming the Awesomeness of Management.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Just wanted everybody to be able to know that.
Yeah. Which I know you sent to us, and it's probably stuck in my mailbox because I haven't been to my mailbox in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Making my mailman really happy.
On the back shelf. I guess next time.
I know. I thought about it. Like I've been waiting for the book to appear, and I'm like, I know he sent it, and he said it was going to arrive last week. I wonder why it's not on my desk. And I'm like, I may actually have to physically go get it at the mailbox.
Does Matt not send this to
be on my desk?
Matt, are you not Amazon?
I know. I will go today.
Let me know, if it did come through. Okay, sure.
I assume it has. Yes. I'm waiting for the phone call to say, your mailbox is overflowing. Can you please stop by and check it?
So if you wanted to give people a pitch on why management is awesome, why this is an excellent and very necessary portion of an organization, what would you say?
Yeah, it's a kind of there's three things going on in the organization. You're working in the business, which is creating value. And one of the first things I'll say is contributors are the only people who create value in the organization. It's not contributors, but the act of contribution, because that is the value of the organization. Then you have work on the future. That's what leaders do. That's visioning. That's figuring out where do we go from here. The act of working on the business is why managers exist. That's why they're awesome. And I would say they're actually the culture champions in your organization.
Oh, yeah.
Because you think of culture as a formula of understanding the values plus the human touch. Managers are magnitudes more engaged than leaders are. Leaders are focusing on the future. They're focusing out. And I call it the X factor of value. Leaders are looking up and out. Managers are looking down and in. And so they've got that touch. So their ability to transfer the culture into the organization and maintain it is one of the big values that they bring, plus multiplying the value of the people in the organization.
That's a great way of describing it, and it also that implies exactly why it's such a hard thing to step into. You might not be doing all of the leadership work, but you better be on top of what the leaders are doing, so that you can be able to translate that down, and you better be on top of what everybody else is doing. I mean, this is going from individual contributor to manager is an enormous step. The way you've described it is pretty good. When you're a leader, it's almost less, at least, responsibility. There's kind of this whole huge translation portion you're going to have to do in the management in the middle, and it's not easy.
Yeah. One of the analogies I use for this, and I mean, I'll be throwing analogies around from now until the end of this conversation, but tubing, are you familiar with the concept of a tube being dragged behind in a boat? Yeah. So that's actually one of my favorite. So if you think of it, leaders are driving the boat. If we can kind of get past the absurdity and the logic, all the individual contributors are riding in the tube. The manager is this really crucial part of tubing, which is called the spotter. Their job is to sit at the back of the boat and look for, is the tube in the wake or is it across the wake wall? Because when you cross the wake wall, you get some really bumpy waters. And if you're making lots of moves like this, lots of shifting, pivoting, the chances of you ending up outside the wake wall are really high. And worst case, you go wake to wake or wall to wall, where you just go all the way across, which is a ton of fun if you're just looking for like craziness in the back of a boat. Organizationally, it's exhausting because all you're doing is holding on for your dear life. But if our leaders are constantly looking over their shoulder to see, is everyone okay? Is everyone okay? That boat's still going real fast in the direction they're not looking. That's not real safe. So leaders need to be looking forward. But that manager role, think of that head. It's on a swivel. It's constantly looking back. Where are they at? Communicating to the leader. Looking back. Where are they at? Communicating to the leader. And if they're just like, man, I really wish I was back at the tube with everyone else, and they just jump in the water, I mean, you lose the spotter. But that's what a lot of managers essentially do. They either want to get up in the driver's seat and be the leader and get out of the spotter spot. They want to jump back in the tube because it's either more fun or where they see the value being created. And so we just need to help them understand how valuable that position is. But you're right. They're the go-between. They have to keep that head on a swivel.
Yeah.
For a second, I was going to say the rope, but I like the spotter metaphor better.
I know. That's what I was going to go. Like, they're the rope.
Spotter's way better.
It's a little more fun. Yeah.
It sounds better. But yeah, a lot of that it's like you said, like the tendency to want to get back into the boat, and because that's where the value is. Because like you said, like it's like, it's tangible. There's value in being the manager. It's absolutely necessary, and there's value in being the leader. Otherwise, you're just doing, and everybody's doing whatever, and there's no direction, and there's no way of figuring out, what support is needed, and all of the things in between that are missing. But the letting go of, if I don't do, I'm not contributing, and I'm not measured on not doing, and so I'm gonna keep doing, and therefore I'm not gonna manage because, well, that's extra. We just had a conversation about that actually, on like, how do we change that mindset? Because then you tend to hold on to things, not delegate, or not communicate because you're constantly in this, like, I have to prove that I'm doing, and doing is only measured in tangibles. And so where's that balance? How do you, that's one of the things that I had to learn. And I learned through coaching was I needed to let go, and let somebody else do, and trust that, first of all, it would get done, and it would get done probably better than I would. And also that I was still contributing. Like, I would not lose my identity in this.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That's one of the biggest reasons for articulating, like, what is it that managers and management actually bring to the organization, so you can help see those activities as providing value, because it kind of is difficult to get the KPIs directly set on them, where it's like, okay, well, the team's doing marginally better, like, let's say a 10% increase in their efficiency in doing the work, or KPI, whatever it is. Will that have happened with the manager here or not? Like, it's hard to be a qualitative piece. Then that's the kind of things, like, how are people feeling? Do they have clarity? Do they have consistency? Do you feel like your community? I call it the 4 C's, is like what managers can really, if anybody wants to help reduce anxiety and help their people be more efficient in what they're doing, they need to know they're cared for. They need clarity. They need consistency, and they just need communication. And then they need more communication. And then when you're done with that, you should probably communicate a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yes. Indeed. So how do you build that trust? We talked about trust last time, and it keeps coming up. So what is trust?
I think trust, in part, it's one of the big things is track record. And so trust is not just something that's freely given. Like you can have a starting point. And that's, I think, the being clear, like that clarity and consistency, that's part of what builds trust. Because if people are wondering what's coming around the corner, they're putting energy into wondering. If people are not sure, like, is this person going to show up as Dr. Jekyll or Mr. and Mrs. Hyde? That's not the kind of energy you want them putting in that space. And so it's being clear on like what we're doing here. So giving people that clarity, and then track record, following through on the things that you say. That's what I think over time is what builds trust. But it's not a starting point. It's kind of the thing that you build, which over time makes the engine work that much better.
Yeah, it's exactly a good way of describing it. And I think people will start to lose the empathy for when you start to get measured on like, is the team performing? Is it producing? Then it's easy to either go back and try and do the production work so that they're producing, or just try and be a taskmaster so that they're producing and just run each little one. But exactly what you're saying is what kind of greases the wheels and allows the productivity to actually happen. Make sure they know exactly what's going on. They don't have to be worried about it. They're not worried about your mood. They're not worried about their place, their general safety. Suddenly there can be a lot more productivity there. And to your point, Cristina, as well, it's just hard to measure that. It's hard to say like that was the impact of this manager. If we hadn't had that manager, this team wouldn't have done that. It's there. It is what's happening, but it's really hard to measure.
Yeah, and I think one of the other ones that really, it's like trust and psychological safety is what happens when people show up outside of your expectations or don't meet the goals that you set. Then what do you do? And I just have a general rule. Apparently, I love the letter C, but it's, again, curiosity over critique. Just lead with curiosity. Kind of assume people showed up wanting to do the best job they could. If the best job didn't get done, something got in the way. So instead of being like, I'm going to critique you for the outcome, which can't be changed right now, I'm going to get curious about the process. How did we get here? Is there something we can do next time so that this becomes an opportunity for us to learn? We didn't get it today, but we want to get it tomorrow. Critiquing you on what went wrong today isn't going to help us get better. We still need to name it, but enter it with curiosity, not critique.
I like that a lot. The curiosity piece is huge, and instead of the critique aspect of it. So it's another thing that we started talking about, but we never really resolved. What happens when trust is broken?
You have to atone. You have to say, trust was broken, I name it, and I have to apologize, and I have to own it. I have to attune, which is get back in line and say, where can we go from here? Because basically it's almost like you have to start out with relationship 2.0. Mm-hmm. You say we have things from 1.0 we want to keep, but 1.0 is now kind of dead. Like, to be blunt, mm-hmm. You have to build a new relationship. It's mm-hmm. actually harder to maintain a relationship that's broken than to just say, look, that was a terrible attempt. Attempt one is no longer in play. Mm-hmm. We've atoned for it. I'm sorry. Now we need to attune, or actually we need to attach, which is to say we need to reconnect, mm-hmm. and then we need to attune and like move forward from here. So like, what's the new normal? Stepping out of the space, and then it's just back to trust, like we built the first time. Mm-hmm. But we, frankly, from those lessons learned and got a little more clarity. And to be honest, it's some points in time say, I don't have it in me to move forward mm-hmm. from this. And that we need to separate or change the nature of the relationship. Like, I can't show up for you in the same way I did before because the breach is too deep. And maybe I need some time to get through it, and I come back in like 6 months or a year. Or an employee is like, we do need to sever this relationship, or you need to move to a different department. But it's really those 3 steps. If you're going to rebuild trust at all, you have to go through those. Look at that, different letter. Wasn't a C this time.
I know. Lots of A's, though.
To a B1. That's. But I think you work in letters as well, Matt. That's another thing we can have. I was thinking that when you said like chaser of shiny things, that acronym's COST, which is interesting. That kind of goes back and forth.
Of course. Of course. How am I surprised that you came up with an acronym?
I didn't. I was just that was what was said. I'm just channeling.
Let me know if I need to step away and you two can just be.
The rest of this conversation is going to be acronyms. So anybody who's not in for it, let's.
Yes. Shiny chaser, creative, whatever your profile is.
So one thing I'd be interested to know, Matt, from your end, is the journey to knowing these things. Because like you said, we have to kind of set on an understanding of what management is, and there's bits and pieces where people have touched on this. One thing I will say is that I don't feel like a lot of organizations have that at the front of their minds. We have the idea of what a software developer is. We have a vague idea of what an executive is, and they tend to have their different quirks and personalities, and we just kind of like let that be. And then we kind of throw managers all in the middle, but we don't have that. How did you come to this understanding of kind of what management is and can be? What was your journey?
Oh, man. So that's a fun personal question. I mean, it's how I got into it. So a couple of points on my path. Like at one point I was a pastor of a Lutheran church. So I led a church. I was in charge of it. I did leadership. Like it was awesome. It felt like I was on vacation every day. It was actually one of my favorite jobs. Fast forward a few years, I've gone through a couple different chasing of shiny things, and I ended up in like a purchasing job. I'm working in corporate America, trying something else out because I've never been there before. So what the heck? Let's see what happens. And I'm loving being an analyst. I love getting in the details and like helping tell a story with data and doing great contribution. So I'm rocking contribution. I was on vacation when I was a leader, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, we just acquired another company. We need you to take over and be a supervisor for 2 people." Sweet. I mean, I'm a good contributor. I didn't have the language at the time, but I was like, I was a good contributor. I was a good leader. This is management. Like, it's just the middle. It's just something that's in between, right? Man, I've never been more wrong about anything corporate-wise in my life. I got my butt kicked. Like, and guess who picked it? It was me. I was so out of my element, out of my depths. I was coming, I was like, I don't know, these people like me? Gosh, I really have said it that way. You know what? I need to go in at 7 a.m., like 5 a.m. tomorrow, so I can pick up some of the extra work that one of my people's doing, because I didn't explain it very well. Like, I was just all up in my head. And I was like, what the? It's like I have a bridge with 2 solid foundations, and I get to the middle of the bridge, and it's like paved in paper, and I'm terrified that every step I'm going to fall through the icy waters below. That was like 12 years ago now, and that was the point where I said, I don't understand what's going on. I went and got an MBA because I was like, I got to figure this out because this doesn't make sense. I can't quite see them all, but I got a bunch of other pieces of paper on the wall, like project management, APIX, which is supply chain management, Lean Six Sigma. There's my favorite one because it's an acronym within an acronym. It's called OCEB, which is Object Management Group Certified Expert in Business Process Management.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen right there. I don't know.
I don't know what's going on there.
But it's like, I had to figure this out. And so I've been uber curious and constantly looking for, where is this showing up? And as I moved into consulting, start working with clients, a lot of my work was more towards organizational. It was the operational side of let's help you build a control documentation program. Let's help you do an org design so that you're making the best use of your people. And as I got into that, what I kept seeing is in all of these different spaces, it was how the manager showed up that was causing the majority of the issues that we were running into. Like if the managers would just tweak a little bit in how they understood what their role was, and that's because it was like things were missing. And what it was optimization and activation. Like who's going to own getting these things started and who's going to own making them work better? And they weren't the leaders, and the contributors were just too darn busy doing the work. And it's like, that was what managers, I really feel like do. They're the activators and the optimizers.
Oh,
and so, then I just wrote 300 pages about that. So now you got it.
So basically the answer is read the book.
Hey, it's a good answer.
Probably for the audio version, so it should be.
Indeed. Yeah. So it's curiosity, not a real question. Well, a real question, but not a real question. Did all the certifications, especially the one that I can't even repeat, help you?
Yeah. And to be honest, like almost all of the certifications were because they were in areas that I was just terrible at doing on my own. Like, they were all like, so back to the working genius, galvanizing and tenacity. Like getting people excited about something and doing the detail work aren't really my strong suits. So I got a project management certification because it's like, I am not good at this. I need to have help to figure out the most efficient way to do the thing I'm not good at. Business process management, same thing. Lean Six Sigma is how do I use all the tools to be efficient in the spaces that I'm not good at. So I was trying to just constantly learn how to do stuff that I wasn't good at as efficiently as possible.
All right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Do you ever
Indeed.
get feel better about it, or is this something that you still want to like? Hey, I don't want to do it. I just feel efficient.
What I found is I really, and actually the certificates helped a ton with this. I love setting them up. I love being like, oh, what you're missing here is like real project management. You're not going through all the 5 phases. Here's the things that are missing. I can help you design that. Oh, you know what? You could use a 5S program or a 6S program. Let me help you implement that. Controlled documentation is a thing. And there's a fun thing called meta processes with the process, which is what actually makes controlled documentation work. Let me help you understand how to do that. So I now have, in a sense, I almost think of myself a lot of times like a Sherpa. I'm just like carrying everything in my bag so no one else has to. And then we get to the actual location. I was like, oh, let me pull the exact thing you need right now. That's what they give me the information to share with people when they need it.
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I'm sure you've created your own custom, way of pulling whatever tool is needed at the moment.
That's an acronym called Sherpa, and you go.
Yes.
Although
I can't come up with the words of that acronym.
I did come up with one recently that's close. It's not Sherpa, but I'm still exploring it. But it's a tool called like What's Your Deal? And what it's looking at is listing out, and this is more for like solopreneurs or small business owners. You list out all the activities that you do or need to be done in your organization. And then you look at how much energy does it take me to do this? Scale of 1 to 5. How much value does this produce for me or the organization? Scale of 1 to 10, because I think you can have more value than energy. And then what deal is looking at what do I delegate? What do I eliminate? What do I automate? And what do I do? And so you're trying to separate out your activities, and delegate are things that they can do 80% as well as I can do it, or they can do 80% of the task. So either I can take it off and then hand it off, or they can get it started and I close it out. So you delegate those. The eliminate are things that are not necessarily required and have what I'd call a low fulfillment ROI. So that energy to value is a less than 1 exchange. So just get rid of them because they're not providing value for you right now. And if they're not necessary for the business, automate. Like you should be looking to do that pretty much everywhere. Is it standardized? And is there a tool that can help me with this? Like ideally, someone who can have a conversation about something. And then lead is what is the thing that nobody else can do but you? That better be on your list. And so you go through, you figure out what's your deal. And it's just how to like separate out all your tasks.
Nice. All right. It's a good acronym.
Yeah. I'll turn it into a picture someday. But that's I got all the ideas out there. Now I just gotta go find people. So if anyone listens to this and puts it together and sends it to me after that, be fantastic.
That won't be either of us, just in case you're waiting. In the working genius, tenacity is both our frustrations. So there's a lot of ideas that Alex brings. There's a lot of discerning what the ideas are about and, figuring out the enablement, like what support and how do we get them done. And then there's just kind of like turning around and be like, and why is nobody picking this up?
It's like the
why is it not being
It's
created?
put in a jar, then it seals, and then it just drops off a shelf.
Yes. That.
Tenacity, because it's hard to maintain a business if you.
Yes.
What was that like the first time you found someone who brings the tenacity into it?
Well, we have finally got a lot of things done.
Yeah, suddenly things started happening. We were like, oh my God, this was possible this whole time?
Yes.
This happened so much faster than the amount of griping and complaining we would have done before we got to this.
Yes. It's faster. They're better. There's like way more than before.
But it was also that very tepid, like, golden rule, like, I'm sorry to put this on your plate, but if you could look at this, that'd be great. And then they just, like, destroy it like half an hour and be way better than we could. We're like, oh, and you're okay? You're okay? Do you feel like it? Do you want to rest? Do you want a day of rest now that you've done that? They're like, no, I love this. Like,
Please
okay,
don't quit.
Yeah, it's so hard to break feeling, but because I've experienced that a couple of times, and I didn't have the working genius at that point, but it's just like it felt like rocket fuel. It's like it's like we were trying to fly the rocket without fuel, and that one thing comes in.
Yes.
For me, has been this. I've seen this story with clients as well. Like, when you finally figure out, like, well, what is that missing? And that's what I love about the working genius, just as a tool. Like the only assessment that says if you have too much or too little of any one of it will show up in a way that's harming your business.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, I'll say for us internally, my team, galvanizing is a frustration. Yeah. Discernment.
How's the business development going?
It's intentional. But it's also like discernment's my number 3. It's my first competency, and it's the other 2 members of the team. And so that space between, like, I describe the wonder invention discernment as like the wide open. Like, that's what people want to do. Yeah. And galvanizing enablement tenacity is the giver. So it's, do you want to keep it wide open or do you want to get it done? Right at that handoff point, we have all of this magnetic energy pulling us into the wide open space and pushing us away from the giver. And that's showing up. And, luckily we have a tool to have the conversation, which means we just have to be really intentional about it. Into a space where we can hire in to cover, but now we know what it is we need to hire in and cover for. And it's just, that's the beauty of the tool. It literally helps you figure out, it's like a roadmap for what the next steps are. Just cover all the bases and then figure out how to be clear and consistent in doing so. And it's going to help your business. Yeah.
Well, and then respect the bases. So don't get frustrated if you're, if you're an ideator and a discerner. Don't get frustrated when the get people want to get to doing. And they're not up here in the wide open space with you, and vice versa. And so respecting where everybody belongs and how they're contributing and how their contribution is going to show up completely differently, because the tenacity people are not going to be in all these idea conversations. That's not where their participation is going to go. Their participation is going to be like, okay, you had the ideas on getting it done. So respect that, and respect that, like, that doesn't mean they don't have an opinion. That doesn't mean they're not part of the team. It doesn't mean that they're lacking anything or they're not as engaged. It's just their engagement shows up very differently.
Yeah, absolutely. To the point of, like, which meetings we go to. There's one meeting we call Dreaming and Creating. Not surprising. It's a WI meeting. The attendance for that meeting is required. Nobody else is. It's optional. It might just be a working space for me. That's great, because I'll just work on stuff that's like figuring out how to tweak this, how to make it better. We're trying to make everything have some action so that Matt doesn't get so totally untethered and flies away. No one else has to meet it.
Especially in a meeting alone. I mean, who's bringing you down?
So, Alex, I mean, you're always welcome to show up.
I'll be up there, untethered.
I know.
I'll be throwing shiny objects around.
You'll be flying in the sky as 2 balloons that don't even meet.
It'll be tremendously unhelpful for everybody. It'll be a blast. And I will have forgotten about everything that happened in it 5 minutes afterwards. Okay, that was fun.
That's one of the other things, too, that it's been really helpful is thinking about burnout within that space. Because, frankly, that meeting itself, because if it's just a place where I go and have those conversations with myself and I just explore something for an hour and a half, that brings me joy. That itself is valuable. And what we have a tendency to do is, I say we flame out in our frustrations. We burn out in our competencies. And what we tend to do is say, what people need is more space and more time. Well, usually, if we've been low energy at work, what we've been doing is ignoring all the things that we don't want to do at home. So we send people home to all of the things that are still probably in their frustrations or competencies. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to fill your cup.
Yes.
What's something going on here that's kind of in your space? Like, Matt, you're a wonder that the other team is having an offsite. You're not on their team, but would you mind going and sitting with them, like a conversation partner for the day? No tasks, no requirements. You could just sit and listen the whole time. And all of a sudden, I'm supporting the business and I'm feeling versus being, all right, Matt, go home and take care of all the tasks that you've been home because you're things at work.
Yes.
It's not helpful.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And also doubling down, like forcing people to double down on their frustration when they already are procrastinating on them and really struggling with them doesn't help at all. So it's there in their frustration. Help, like, bring somebody else in, find somebody that's their geniuses who can help them out, because that collaboration can get them out of being stuck. Otherwise it becomes this self-fulfilling, just like you said. Send somebody home to do the frustration part because the frustration part is burning them out at work. It's not gonna help. And so same thing, it's like, fueling, like putting more fuel into the fire or burning out, it's not gonna work either.
I totally agree. Yeah.
It's like, so bring somebody else along. That's where collaboration starts.
You mentioned a good idea of how to consider this and I have a feeling this comes from your math background maybe a little bit as well, but you talked about it being like an energy equation. What's the plus and what's the minus of this? And I think that's worth thinking about. It's helpful imagery for me about, hey, when have I reached a threshold? When is this actually adding energy? Is this subtracting energy? And what can you do with that later? Because that idea of like, just go to this offsite, even if you weren't invited to this, like maybe that's going to be really filling, and now you have a whole bunch of energy to do other things instead of wearing out. And that I'm curious to hear more about that idea of that energy equation.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mentioned it earlier, like the concept I use, and it's both in individual and organizationally. Actually, it's just called fulfillment ROI, because I think that's what we're looking for, right? Because it's actually the same formula for sustainment and sustainability. It's the amount of energy we put into things and the amount of value they create for us. If that's a positive return, that's a fulfilling experience, which is to say it's also sustainable. I've used that for many years on the coaching side of my work. I'm actually been very recently, in like the last 6 months, transferring that over into the consulting organizational side of it, because I realized, well, one, organizations are just culminations of a bunch of people doing stuff. And so would this like
typically, yes,
you have a bunch of fulfillment ROIs and you add them all together, do you get like a mega fulfillment ROI? I say, yeah, you actually do. And the thing is, we already have names for them. Like the energy side of things is what we call operational excellence. How easily can we get things done? So making things more operationally excellent is reducing the energy to get things done. It's efficiency. The value proposition is organizational health. Do people find value in the things they're doing? Do they see themselves reflected in their actions? Do they see their actions having value and impact on the mission of the organization? So in between operational excellence and organizational health, if you can get those two things back in line, organizations that are just out of alignment, they're just not feeling fulfilled. And if you do that organizationally, I guarantee you that's going to filter down to your people. And then all of a sudden people are more fulfilled. And that's my goal in life, is because if we're fulfilled at the work we do, when work should be fulfilling, that means we go home with fuller cups to be better partners, better parents, better members of society. We can engage in the activities that continue to fill our cup. It becomes a positive feedback loop. And so that's the goal. Like, that's my mission.
Yeah. That's such a great concept. So I'm trying to figure out what the question is. How do you get awareness on somebody else's fulfillment ROI and your own, and then combine those to actually find that formula?
That's a great question. I would say it goes back to conversation and curiosity, because we got to get to where people's intentions are coming from. And something happens in communication every time. There's an intention, and then there's a perception. And all of our fears, our shortcomings, the things we think we're not great at, fall into the gap in between to become filters. So if someone has an intention, it goes through all these filters before we get a perception. And what we need to do is close that perception attention gap by asking a lot of questions. And we find out what it is that actually drives them. Assessments are another great tool to open up that conversation. From that, because I say assessments, they're descriptive, not prescriptive. They're the start of a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're helping you have a conversation you probably didn't have the language for prior to the assessment.
Very true.
That would be, you just got to start talking to people and get curious about them. Be like, hey, you're showing up as a person. Tell me more about what that's like.
Yeah. Man, talking to people. If only you could skip that in the workplace.
AI is working on it.
Yeah, which takes us away from the doing if we're talking to people.
Well, I mean, I think AI is kind of like any other tool that we put out there. There's some things it's way better than
Yes.
and there's other things that it's not. And trying to stand in the way of it doing the stuff that it's better at is it's like almost every other technological revolution. It actually ends up creating more jobs on the back end. The thing is, it's interesting. This time around, it's happening so fast. Are we going to be able to keep up as that transition?
Yeah. It's still hard to figure out, like, what is it? What is the intent? What is the best value of the tool versus what we want it to do? And how do we keep with the advancements of it? Like, how do we keep up with, oh, it works well for this, it doesn't work well for that. Okay, I need to tweak this, I need to tweak that before making longer lasting decisions.
I mean, I've started leveraging a lot more AI in the last probably 2 months. Yeah, I'm a 1980s baby, so like I say I grew up in an analog world, and then now I'm living in a digital one, and I haven't yet figured out how to like shift out of that analog mindset. And so a lot of people I work with are like, Matt, you just need to find the easy button, because I just want to find the interestingly creative, way more difficult button. I just want to solve the problem in a complicated way. Like, now that I've been using AI to do a lot of things I used to do, like brainstorming wise, like it's, you feed it a couple documents of things that you've done, and like, frankly, having written a book was a huge benefit to throw in there and just be like, hey, from this, spit out like 6 ideas of something that would be an interesting topic for me to explore talking about on LinkedIn or something like that. And it starts the conversation in a space that I might have gotten to, but like 4 hours into thinking through it. And so it's helped spark a lot more, especially for people that were wonder and invention isn't their default place to go. I think that's a huge value that it can add. Yeah,
I would agree. I use it quite a bit. I do use it definitely daily and multiple times a day now. Because of that wonder and invention piece. It's like, okay, I get the wonder, it's in my competencies. The invention is in my frustration. So it's like, I have this big question. I know how to discern, but I need something to discern. Like the blank thing is just, I can't do the blank thing.
I love that blank page.
Yeah.
That's like the most fun. That's where it's the best thing.
Whatever I want.
Yeah, it's when I've already put stuff on the page and I'm like, oh God, I've ruined this. That's when I can't look at it anymore. I'm like, Cristina, can you take this and make it look better?
Yeah.
It's leveraging the geniuses.
Yeah. Balances it out. Well, thanks so much, Matt. We appreciate all of your time and your thoughts on this. This is an interesting way of doing it. We, of course, wish you the best of luck at starting a business. The first 6 months are especially fun, and lots of pivots, and especially lots of invention. There's so many fun pieces that I'm guessing you're discovering.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So, last couple of questions. What's your definition of authenticity?
I think when you're being authentic, you don't have to think about it as much. I think it's showing up in the space. I think one of my favorite Mark Twain quotes is, "A person doesn't have to remember anything."
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites.
Maybe the other side of that, I use it a lot in coaching the principles. Oh, in our life there'd be trouble when we worry we make it double. I think authenticity is space, because we're using a lot of energy to move forward, which is going to help us be more fulfilled. So authenticity is lightening the energy load.
Talk about fulfillment ROI.
Yeah.
Live authentically.
Yep.
That's a great way of describing it, and it sounds exactly like kind of the measurement of value of a good management team. You've got yours feeling better. You notice it when you just don't notice it hurting.
Yeah.
It's the thing that it's like the air we breathe. I mean, I think I describe culture a lot of times as air quality. Like when it's toxic, it's choking, no one can.
Yes. Yeah.
It's pure, you don't notice it, but you're.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're breathing and you're not passing out and coughing. So it's working. Definitely. And so where can people find you?
So if you want to learn more about the book, you can even download the first 3 chapters for free. Just manage your notes.
Or go to my mailbox and just open it.
It's going to say to Cristina on the inside.
Yes.
IPNadvisors.com is our website for the company. And then I'm active on LinkedIn. So I like to post a lot there. So if you want to get tidbits like this on a regular basis, I post 5 days a week.
Excellent.
And what does IPN stand for?
Inflection Point Nexus Advisors, which, sounds like a bunch of fun jargony words, right? But it's really like the inflection.
It's an acronym. So.
Yeah. What gets you here isn't going to get you there. And then the nexus is that fulfillment ROI. It's the brackish waters between organizational health and operational excellence. That's where we love to work.
Nice.
I appreciate the amount of math language you've worked into all of these things. I need to check out all of your stuff.
There's a story behind the story.
We're going to have a different one about tangents and inflection points. Cristina, you can join if you want.
It sounds like this is one of those WI creatives only meetings that just, I'll watch the recording.
This is just math nerds.
Yes.
For people who couldn't get their fill at college and haven't had to use it since. And now want something to do with it.
I'll watch afterwards and then I'll point out all the places where you guys made no sense. Because there was no discerner in the room.
And they'd be like, it totally makes sense. You just have to hybrid these two theories that don't make sense together.
And then I'm going to keep asking the question of like, why are we listening to this and how is this actually helping anyone?
Yeah, that's the result of most of my alone WI meetings. And then I look back at the notes, I'm like, why would anybody do this?
We do have WI meetings in our company. Actually, we call them WI meetings, where the rule for me is to shut up. It's like, unless I ask for permission to ask a discerning question. So first I have to ask permission, and if it's the right moment, otherwise, not my meeting to be talking.
I'd like it known that this is a self-imposed rule. It's not like we're all just shouting down Cristina every time this meeting comes up. Cristina says this about herself. It's not like all of us being this just cruel.
It's a great internal culture.
Yes, we're famous for our culture. It's definitely platinum rule. Yeah, it is self-imposed because I know myself and I'm going to go straight into discernment when the WI isn't finished. So that's why I have to ask for permission before I discern.
It's also necessary at some point because otherwise we'll just WI in circles forever.
Same thing with scheme meetings. Those are the mandatory ones everyone wants to know. What are your top 3?
Yeah.
I always have a notebook next to me because people start describing like, oh, that makes me think of this. And I have to write it. This is taking the plane from we're about to land to like, let's just 30,000. Everyone wants some turbulence.
Yes. I know. Hope you didn't eat lunch.
That's what the T stands for?
Yes. Take off.
And the W is, whoa!
Patrick Lencioni listens to this one. He's like,
Yeah.
Yes. And the galvanizing is more like, good Lord. Can we please get everybody on board before you go up and down?
Yeah, GET, good Lord, egads, and terrible. That's how I feel about the last half of this whole.
It sounds like we have a whole new meaning of widget. All right. Well, now we can actually close this off.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you again. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. We'll have you on again if you're willing, because this is great. This is fascinating.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Let me know if I'm invited to that one, or it's just it balloons in the clouds.
One of them will be
missing each other,
and that will just be the one that we'll just have to put like a disclaimer up front, like, we get it if you don't want to listen to this, but
if you
Nobody's
who
here
do,
to
you're gonna get a
actually
lot
press the
out of
stop
this.
button. This may be many hours long because nobody's stopping the recording.
We got only 5 listens, but they are all fervent fans.
Yeah. All right. Well, and thanks everybody for listening.